All right, appreciate that, Rick. I earlier said, hey, Rick, and hey, Chuck. Appreciate the heads up, though, Rick. So, so just to go over everything again, since last week, should have this volume should be good now. So, worked on the Sprint, got that thing all dialed in, made a piece for the console, tightened up all the vacuums. I should have took a picture of the vacuum tree I built because you can't get the vacuum switch for that vehicle to make the dash vents work. So I basically got a 4-port vacuum T and just made hoses to go to whichever vacuum actuators I needed to get the air to come out the vents. So I got that thing all squared away. I did forget that there was no the control arm bushings are shot, so it's not completely finished yet, but we're on the home stretch. I got a bunch of parts, fittings, and coolers and stuff in for the T-type, so should be getting that wrapped up here soon. I have Scott's Skylark back in the shop. That's been out for about 2 years, trying to get a flex plate and a bunch of other stupid stuff made. I'm glad that I pulled the motor out at Scott's house because I would never have been able to store the car all this time waiting on parts. But now that we have everything, I'm going to try to get that thing back together, and that'll be in the future stuff. And then Saturday, we went up to HSR to Sebring. They had their December event, which they call Pistons and Props, and they have a bunch of airplanes, vintage airplanes and vintage race cars, and of course everybody's racing vintage race cars. So that was a good time. Scott took his Le Mans up there for the car show. Chris rode up with me. We took the Nascar up and we got it inspected, and so one step closer to that car being ready to go to the track. So I guess I see the volume working on my side. I guess it's working. Nobody else is saying anything. So anyway, so let me bring up this picture here. So this is the console piece I made for Jack's Sprint. This console was all chopped up and beat up and everything, so my buddy Mike had made a cardboard template already, so I went ahead and formed a piece of aluminum and then got some carbon fiber vinyl tape and covered it in vinyl and made some mounts and mounted it down, and came out pretty nice. So like I said, we're getting really close to this thing being wrapped up. You can see the Terminator in there with it. Engine was actually running when I took the picture. Rick says it's all good. Awesome. Appreciate that. So yes, that was the little console piece I made for that. I had this picture. I sent it to Jack to show him what we had done with that. So that came out pretty nice. Rick had a great, Rick emailed me and gave me a great suggestion, and we're going to do it next week, and we're going to talk about chemicals, glues and paste and whatever stuff we use, assembling engines and transmissions and stuff like that. So I'm going to get that together next week. So, if you're going to build engines, I know Rick will be assembling his sometime in the near future. This will be good information for you. But at least see what I use and what a lot of the different chemicals are for and stuff like that. So that'll be next week. So this week I wanted to go over AN fittings. So I think we're going to do that first, and we'll save the HSR videos for later on in the show. What I had mentioned earlier was that I didn't have enough time to actually do a video of all the fittings and stuff, so I decided just to roll my fab table over in front of the camera, and we'll just do it live here. So bear with me here. I'm going to go ahead and move some stuff around here. So here we go. All right. So try to get this stuff so you can see it in the screen. All right. So with the AN fittings, you get a manual catalog. This is Fragola, but you can get Aeroquip, XRP. Russell makes some, Earls, and other companies, Brown and Miller, and really good catalog to get. They give you specs there on the thread pitches and stuff like that, and what size piping and inverted flares and all that stuff all go in with each size of piping. So even if you're not going to purchase from the person, you get one of these catalogs. It just has a lot of good information in it. And then, of course, they show you all the different hoses and stuff like that in it. And you can see all the specialized fittings. Got a good glare on there, but all kinds of different specialized fittings and stuff like that. So really, really good thing to have. So when you're working with AN stuff, you got to connect it to different things. So you have different type fittings. This is a AN. Let me turn this light on. So this is a AN to pipe. So you got pipe thread on this side, and then your male AN on that side. There's another one. It's pipe thread. You can get one that'll connect to your factory fuel injection. That's for like a spring lock for a Ford fuel injection system, like on a Fox body, and then it converts it to AN. You got different angles, fittings, 90s, T's, 45s, all those kind of different things. And that's what you need the book for, so you can see all that stuff. And you got, from our guys up at Race Part Solutions, they make these different bungs. That's a weld-on bung for ORB. I'll get in that in a minute. There's a male AN, and there's a female NPT, threaded pipes. And that's NPT is National Pipe Thread. So those are always, like all your galvanized and stuff like that, it's all NPT. The threads are tapered, so the farther you tighten it up, it locks down. Whereas a AN style fitting is straight thread, and it won't tighten down. It'll just go right through. This is that's a compression. Sorry about that. There's a ORB. So ORB is a straight thread, same thread as the AN side. Has an O-ring for seal, and then this is a high radius. I don't know if you can see that, but it's machined into a radius. Instead of having a end like this, it is countersunk, so it's high flow. So like anything in your fuel system, you'd want to run a radius fitting. And you got ORB cap, and that should be the same. So here's a standard AN ORB flange. This can be welded onto everything. You see, you got a little extra meat there, so you don't have to use any filler rod. It just melt it in. But any of your ORB stuff would screw right in, and then the O-ring seats, and that's what locks it. So it becomes a good locked seal. One of the good things that a lot of people don't know is you can actually buy hose ends with ORB male on it. So if you have a spot where you don't have enough room for your fitting like this, and then your hose fitting, these aren't the right sizes, but you can see that, putting that together, you're going to kind of, there it is, it's going to kind of get pretty big. So you can go to an ORB hose end, and that gets rid of an extra fitting and works out real well. One of the things you want to make sure makes your life a lot easier is you want to make sure that the fittings you get are swivel. See, the hose end will swivel on this. And this end turns too. It's a little tight because it hasn't been used. But the reason you want that is the hose is always going to have, they put them in big rolls. So the hose is always going to have a natural curve in it. So you want to be able to swing your fitting to where the hose leaves in a good shape. And here's what I'm talking about. Here's a piece of Teflon. You can see that the hose has got a natural shape to it. So if you wanted to stick it in something and you wanted to bend it the other way, it's gonna be hard and not look real good, and possibility of kinking. So you don't want to do it that way. They get female to female. They've got male to male. Even have AN. These are AN to inverted flare. So you can actually, there you are. So you can actually go right to metals tubes or brake tubing or anything like that. Hey John, how you doing? And you got other kind of specialized fittings on tubing. You can put a sleeve and a nut, and that creates an AN fitting. You put a flare on that side. All AN stuff is 37-degree flare. So you have to make sure your flare tool is for 37 degrees, but now you can make this tube hardlined right onto your AN fitting. I think that'll go right onto this. So yeah, so you could put this right on here if you wanted. And now you've got an AN hardline. Stuff I do in gas tanks. I took this apart because I wanted to show you, but the curve is right in the fitting. The line was actually curved after the fitting was, but this is a compression style fitting. So if you want to do something like in a gas tank or something where you're concerned with fuels eating the rubber hose, you can do something like this. This would be a fuel tank pickup tube. And of course you have your different hose styles. So your standard fitting, it's going to be one of these. Let me see, I might be able to get a bigger one, but this is a what I would call compression style. This actually goes into the hose. Well, first let me show you different fittings. That's kind of small to see. So here's your nut. It's on a AN fitting. If you can look in the inside there, you can see there's ribs in there. And so way all this works is your hose goes in there. You push your hose all the way through. As you can see, this one's all the way through. And then this fitting is the same ID at the beginning, and then it swells and goes into the threads. So as you screw this fitting in, it actually digs into the rubber hose. And if you look right there, let's see if I can get it focused again. You can see there, you can see the red thread, and then you can see it go into black. That's the actual hose that's actually got the threads cut into it. And that compression from this part here, where as it goes out, it pushes the hose and swells it into this fitting. That's what locks it in. Now with it out, you can see now it swivels on there. So that is standard style. This is most common carbon compression style. John says same as JC joint, right? Industrial Council accepts steel and aluminum for hydraulic lines. Correct. It's all the same type thing. Some use olive, so your Teflon hose, which you probably wouldn't use in JIC, but this is a Teflon lined hose. So it's a Teflon line with steel braid, and then this is actually has a black covering to make it a black hose instead of a braid. And these actually have it's hard to see, and I lent somebody all my Teflon fittings, so I can't show you one apart, but there's actually a olive in here that you actually push in between the braid and the Teflon. You use a tool like this, and actually what you do is you put that in there and then you push until the olive gets all the way in. You pull it out and you look at the olive, and you should see the nylon all the way up against the end, and then you can put your fitting in, which has a sleeve. See, like this one, you can see here, the silver is an olive, and you can hardly see the line, but the line is, let's see if I can get a good picture here. You can kind of see the Teflon is shoved all the way up against the olive. And then this fitting goes in, and then you tighten it up, and as you tighten it up, this part of the fitting, you see how it's necked way down? That's going to crush the olive as a compression type deal, and that will lock it. Now this kind of fitting is rated for much higher pressure. Typically, these hose compression ends are good for about 300 or 400 psi. An olive Teflon lined like this is good for 3,000 psi. So this is what you'd want to use on power steering hoses and hydraulic lines and stuff like that. Your brake lines are all made out of this type thing, except for they would use a compression fitting instead of a screw together fitting. But you can make your own brake lines with that. And most companies have these available in aluminum and in steel. If you're going to use them for brake lines, I would typically use the steel. You just don't want the aluminum to fatigue and snap off and lose your brakes. So the other style fitting there is the cutter style, and so this shank fits the idea of the hose. But you can see that the shape of this actually will push some of the rubber down inside, and the rest of the rubber will go on the outside and lock in this fitting. And so these are a little bit tougher to get together. They do raise the line pressure a little bit, but you can see the fitting is a little shorter on this style than on a compression style, which compression style goes all the way to the end of the fitting. Sometimes they actually even stick out. Then the other style hose I use a lot on fuel systems. For if it's going to be on a street car, it's going to look. We're trying to make it look OEM. We use these that are called push lock, and you can see they've got some heavy barbs on them, and they have a retainer. So the hose needs to go all the way down against the retainer, and then some will use a clamp. So this style with this big barb, you don't need to put a clamp on, but you can always if you want to. And if anybody's ever put those together, you know those are tough. So Cool Tools makes this really nice tool here that actually puts the fitting in here, clamps the hose in here, and you can actually use a ratchet to push the hose in. They've got nice knobs on this side, and then they've got an assortment of different adapters for different sizes from 3 all the way up to 16. So if you're going to do push lock, especially the number 3 and 4, it's very hard to get the hose to stretch over those bumps or the knurls or the but so this tool definitely makes that a lot easier. Barbs, that's what I was trying to say. The barbs on the fittings. So we were talking last week that the Sprint that I was working on, that the hoses had black tape on them, and that's kind of like a no-no. And the reason they do that, it's just one of those things that it's tough to do. But you can see on this hose that when it's cut, how the braid starts coming apart. Well, you can't get it inside the sleeve because the braid wants to come out. So Cool Tools also makes these little deals. And on these, it works like this. You take your piece, put your nut in there, and then you clamp this in the vise. Now you can see that we have a ramp now to get the hose into the fitting, because this fitting here, you go up against this hose. Well, that's a different size hose. this hose here, it doesn't want to go in. But if you use this tool, you can push the hose in and work it. It's easier to put this in a vise, and then you can get it into your fittings. So you don't have to use the electrical tape. Problem with the electrical tape or masking tape or whatever you want to use inside there is that it becomes a bearing, basically, so that when you're putting the fitting together, it's going to try to stretch it. So when you're putting the fitting together and it's trying to compress, rather than compressing the hose because it's soft on the outside or makes it like a rubber, it's actually going to back right out or not stay permanently seated. If you look at this fitting once again, you can see that hose is all the way up against the step. You can see in this fitting there's a threads and then there's a hollow spot right behind the threads. So it's got about maybe 3/16 of an inch of threads, and then it goes into the knurls that are inside there. So you can see that this hose is all the way up to the edge. And that's the way it needs to be, and it needs to stay that way to get the rating, pressure rating that it's made for. So that's really important to get that stuff together. What I wanted to show you guys here is you can get when you're plumbing a car, you want to make sure that, or truck or motorcycle, whatever you're plumbing, you want to make sure that the hose has the least amount of curvature in it. This hose needs a pretty good radius of it. So they make fittings like that's a 180. There's a 90 with 90. It's got a turbo drain plug on it. And then from there, we go 60, 45, 30, and then we finally end up with straight. So you can see that with just a very slight change in angles, you can get your hoses to lay down the way you need them to lay down. So it's really important to try to get that done right. So when I'm assembling a car, I'll usually figure 45s, but I'll buy some 30s and 60s also, so that way as I'm assembling, if it's not looking like it's going to come out right, well then I can always change them out to that style fitting. There's also a 135, which is halfway between 90 and 180. I didn't put one of them on the table tonight. So the other thing that you want to do, well, first let's go over some tools here. So if you're going to do any AN hose at all, you want to invest in a set of jaws. These are magnetic, they go in your vise, and they hold the fitting very good. And that way you can put it together. You got sides, tops, you can go in from different angles, but it makes it really good, and it'll keep this fitting from getting marred up putting it together. So that's like a must. And they're cheap, they're not bad. Of course, if you're doing Teflon, you need the pusher for the olive to get that in. That makes life a lot easier than trying to do it with your thumbs and stuff. Now, as far as cutting the hose, I like to use a pair of cable cutters like this. They go, cut in. Now, obviously, these aren't made for AN, so what I have to do every now and then, I go in here with a file and I resharpen the spot. But these things are pretty old and they cut a lot of steel braid. And the reason why I like using this is when you get hose from your suppliers, a lot of times they'll cut it with a cutoff wheel. A lot of people will assemble their AN hoses in their hot rod with cutoff wheels. And the problem with a cutoff wheel, two things. First of all, the braid comes apart like this. Whereas with my cutter, well, that's actually done like that. Well, I'll just cut another piece. So this is cut with a cutoff wheel, and then you can see it's starting to braid. It's not a straight cut, and it's hard to see in there. There's a lot of dust in there, and let's see if we can see this, but You can see all the particles that are in the bottom of this. That's all from one single cut in the AN hose. So what happens is if you cut all your hose with that and you don't flush your lines, then that's all going to get in your injectors and your carburetor or whatever components you're connecting, and it's going to damage this stuff. So you don't want to do that if all possible. Now you can see, this is one I cut a while ago. So the nice thing with the cutter like this, let's see if I can put it where we can get it in the camera, but just have to hook it together like that and cut it. It takes a little bit of effort, and that makes a nice clean cut. And that will do steel braid. That'll do steel braid or regular. Now you can see that there's very little bit of cutting the hose braid coming apart. It does make it a little odd shaped. So what I do is when I put them in, take this piece out. So here's that fitting that had the steel braid, and you can see now there's the knurl from that side, and then you got your thin piece up there. So with cutting up with the cutoff with the chopper like that, look at the the hose goes right in. You push it all the way on, and you can see that it's not all the way in yet. Let's see if I can. Yeah, so I got it. So now you can see the hose is all the way at the end. So the next trick that I do is I get this from the plumbing department at Home Depot. It's a Husky. I don't know what they call it, but I usually lubricate this real good. I stick this in, turn it around, and it gets the hose nice and straight where you can get it in. Actually, this size hose, I have an awl that's even bigger, but that works really good for getting the hose back round again, because when you cut it with the cutter, it kind of makes it go, but you can see it's pretty round now, and so the fitting will start in there no problem. Is that the right fitting? Yeah. So if you put a little lube on it, here's another good pick, or good tip rather. Always put lube on this stuff, because one thing is you're going to roll this fitting into the hose, and if this is dry, it's going to twist the hose and try to push the hose out of the nut, which is the crimp for it. So you don't want that to happen, so you need it well lubricated. Plus I put a little lubricant on the threads, because this is aluminum and they will mar. And then these are made to be reusable, so you'd want to be able to get it to where you can reuse it again. Of course, that is not the right fitting on there, but that's normally would go right in. Of course, I normally do it in a vise, so that would make it a little easier to do. But yeah, that would go right in and then compress. It would compress the hose into the nut, and that would lock it up. So that's really good stuff. So other tools you should get if you're going to do a lot of AN stuff. This is a snap-on kit, but it is an AN wrench set. And they have all the different sizes from 3 up to 20. That works real good when you're in the car. The wrench length is predetermined so that you apply a swedge tool. Okay, thank you, John. Those wrenches are basically the length of them so that is limits you to how much torque you can put on it. Now, they don't work really good for assembling the fittings because it's a little bit more, you're compressing the hose, it's really tight. You're definitely going to have in the vise. You can do the black hose with wrenches, but it's tough. What I like my favorite tool is the snap-on wrench. They make this in 3 sizes. This is the medium size. And the reason I like this is a very short, you can see it's maybe a 6-inch wrench, but this will open up to 1.5 inch opening. And they have a really good mechanism on there to where it doesn't open up and swedge. So these are really good for putting the fittings together. You have to be very careful because you will scratch the anodizing, but it puts it together. Using the end wrenches, you're gonna kill the wrenches. They're gonna here, like I've got one here that's 12. I do a lot of 12, and you can see that this wrench is pretty beat up around the edges from tightening up oil lines on race cars all the time. So they always do these in a soft anodizing. Now I have taken some of these snap-on ones, Blue Points, and sent them to get hard anodized, and it works really good hard anodized. It doesn't wear out, but now you're back to where you can scratch the anodizing again. So if you do have that, I have a fix for that too. So Sharpies are awesome. So here's a fitting that got a little marred up. You can just take your Sharpie and cut it up like that. And now it's show quality again. So that works out really well. Sometimes when you're tightening them up, you might catch the edge right here like this. So all you can do is just put a little spot on there, and good as new. And if you're using the old fittings, you got the same thing. You got blue. The blue is a little bit off color, but it definitely looks better than the silver. So you can just kind of clean them up just like that. And of course, where that cap went? Oh, it's right there. And also got a red, dropping everything. So like putting this one together. See how the edges are kind of rounded? But you can just take your marker, hit the scratches. Just like that, the fitting looks good as new again. So just little tricks. It's real handy when you're working on a show car or something like that, because you can run into problems with that all the time. And I think that's all I really had tonight. I just wanted to we had talked about that last week, and I wanted to show you that stuff. Did the lines, got the ORB and stuff. So yeah, so the main thing is pick up a catalog. Now, of course, all of the stuff I get from Race Parts Solutions. They're a Fragola major supplier. They probably have as much inventory as Fragola has. So, oh, here's a good picture. Here's your, well, it's not a great picture, but here's your steel braid. So there's your Teflon. You can kind of see the gold piece at the end of the braid. You can see the braid is expanded, and then there's a gold piece. That's the olive that goes in there, and then your fitting goes in. And then as you put this part over top of the olive into that, it makes your compression fitting. And I thought somewhere in here they also I thought they had a spot in there that showed correct angles on the that may have been on in a that must have been in a Air-Equip catalog. Air-Equip catalog showed how far you could twist the fittings. And of course there are compression fittings too, and that's what companies like Brown and Miller do. They do all compression stuff like this. And if you really want to do something high end, or you're trying to save weight in your build, the Brown and Miller stuff is really good. It's a little bit more pricey, but very good fittings. And what they'll do is they have male and female ends on their compression ends, so that you eliminate all your extra fittings. So the hose is the fitting into your fuel rail or your fuel pump or water pump or whatever you're putting together, and it does everything. It does it all without any extra pieces. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you with the AN stuff. I don't know if anybody had any questions about that stuff. Just, it's a little tedious work, but man, when the car's all done and plumbed properly, it's a work of art. And you can really get really good with the routing and stuff. Oops. Can't get this out of here. Okay. All right, so let's go back to normal. All right, back to normal again. But yeah, I wanted to show that, and I kind of ran out of time to get everything set up and everything. So I figured we'd give it a shot with the live demonstration. But like I said, next week we'll go ahead and do the chemicals, the glues and silicones and stuff like that that I use when I'm putting stuff together. Everything will be kind of the way I do it. It may not be 100% the way somebody else would do it, but I'll just show you what I do, and you guys can take it from there. So, like I said, after on Saturday we went to Sebring, and I got the Cup car inspected. So I got here's the spec sheet or technical sheet where they take all the information of the car, and then check all the safety and all the numbers and tow straps and kill switches and fire extinguishers and all that kind of stuff, and get it all figured up, set up for you. So that way the car's been has an annual inspection on it now, so it can be taken to the track at any time. And then one thing that road racing does that a lot of the other racing sanctionings don't do is they actually give you a logbook. So here's the vehicle logbook, 92/98, since it's 92 chassis with a 98 body on it, and inside it they just have more of the information on the car, LS 6.5 and tires and all that stuff. And then the annual inspection, obviously for 2025, and that was probably the last race of the year. But now the car has a book that's going to follow the car now, and from here out we'll show the races that it's been to and the technical inspections, and if there's any issues or anything like that. So that was a really good thing to get done to the car. It just gives maybe the next owner a little bit more, a little bit more confidence that the car is ready to go to the racetrack instead of just my say so. Very possible they don't even know who I am. So, so it's good to have an official. It can tell you, oh yeah, we've looked the car over and it's passed with flying colors and everything's good. And a real cool thing that came out of that is, so obviously you guys that have been on the show know my car has an LS swap in it, and I've talked to a couple people and they were a little gun shy about having that engine in the car because it should have a Ford C3, which was the Nascar engine of that era. And they're pretty pricey to put together. You could easily spend $20,000 getting one of them because the pieces are getting harder to find and stuff like that. So when I went to tech the car, Jack Worley, who is the head tech guy for HSR, told me that they've got some cars that have came in. So in stock car racing, there's a lot of classes that have sealed engines, and Chevy makes a small block, a 350. They call it a 604. I don't know what the 604 is a designation for, but it is a crate stock car engine that they build for spec racing. And that is a very popular engine in circle track venues. A lot of guys will put those in their cars for, if they're doing like a tribute car or they're not going to race it. They're going to do whatever they're going to do with it. Of course, there's a lot of guys racing them in different classes, not in a NASCAR replica, but in other classes of street stock and limited sportsmen, and maybe even depending on the rules of the area. But he was telling me that since there's a lot of cup cars that were in driver schools, that the driver schools have gone to newer cars now, and so these cars are starting to surface with the small blocks and with LSs in them, that they're going to make a new class for 2026, and it's going to be like a swap class. They're working on the actual rules right now, but it'll be for your earlier 90s and older cars that the original engines are maybe too expensive or too hard to come by to get the proper engine for the car. So they're going to have a class where you can put an LS or a crate style engine in it and be able to run the car. And the class will be built around that. So that does a couple of things. So like right now, my motor is about 620 horse, and the proper LS or the proper NASCAR engine for the 90, around 95, 97, and later, they were up in the high 800s. So obviously, you're racing my car, you're at a 200 horsepower disadvantage right away. And it doesn't really show that great on the racetrack, but it does show, especially with top-notch drivers. It's going to show more. So this is going to give those guys a place that they can run together, and then you can be a winner in your class with the lesser horsepower engine. And to just to help everybody understand, so like when they run stock cars at HSR and SVRA, and that goes for any running group that they have on track, there's usually a couple different classes all running at the same time. So in Stock Car Classics, you got Stock Car A, which is 2006 to current. You got Stock Car B, which is 96 to 2006. Then you got C, which is pre 96 cars, and D would be like 70s and 80s cars. You got T for Craftsman truck, and then they have I think it's O, which would be like for ARCA and other classes that are they would have less horsepower in them, but still the same body of car. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to make a class or adapt a class for cars like mine to fit into. So that was really good news to hear, because I was offering the car with or without the engine, because I knew that engine could be a hindrance to somebody that wanted to run, say, Stock Car C or Stock Car B, rather. That would be where the car fit, because Stock Car B cars, a lot of them are going to have those higher horsepower SB2s, C3 Ford, Roush, and Yates type motors, and then of course the I think it's R7s for the Dodges, and all those motors. And the Toyota, I don't remember what the designation is for the Toyotas, but those motors are all dry sump, state of the art, 850 plus, could be up into the mid 900 horsepower range. So to go in with my car, you'd be racing at a disadvantage. So really good to hear about that, and so that was good. So let me go ahead and show you guys. I took a bunch of pictures in the pits, and then I also got a little bit of racing video. But let's go ahead and look at the pit pictures first. There was an old vintage Corvette that looked really cool. Probably like an IMSA type deal there. And it was a later model. So there's quite a few classes. Like this is a GT3 car. These were wore out cars. This was a Bucky's late model Mustang. Unfortunately, he got in a little mishap. I didn't get to see that. But a lot of these cars are all the SCA cars. These are all 2006 and newer, and they've got the big horsepower motors. I think that one had a Roush engine in it, I believe. Pretty late model Taurus. Yeah, so that's got a Yates engine. The other one had a Yates engine in it also. You can see the chassis are very similar to what I have, but these are much newer cars, so they definitely have things moved around to fit the newer car style together better. This one's got the Hendrix SB2 in it. Now it could be SB2 to 2.2, 2.3, so something like that. Now this car is more the era of my car. Actually, this car is probably early 90s, which is the same as my chassis. And one of the things, next picture, I'll stop it. So one of the things you can see in this car is that the shocks are up front. All those newer style cars, those shocks are mounted behind the A-arms, which gives a lot more room for brake ducts and other things like that. So that was good to see this, because I was trying to figure out brake ducting, and I could see on this car they ran the brake ducting up over the control arm and to the back of the wheel, because there's just not enough room to run dual hoses in front of the wheel because of the contact of the shocks in the way. Now this car was Mark Martin's Bush car, but it still had the Yates engine in it. So that's what the motor would normally look like that would be in my car. And this is another mid-90s. He's got SPO on his car, so he runs the car also in SCCA, which they don't really run cup cars, but they let him run in that SB class. And again, another Yates engine. Engine bays are full with all the dry sump hosing and all the other stuff that they run. And you see this one has the back shocks on it, so it's got the big carbon covers for the brake ducts. But 99% of these cars that were at this event were of the 2006 and newer body style. You can see the big brake ducts there. This was a Thunderbird, so it was up to 97. Just a different chassis manufacturer than mine, but again, they got the shocks in the rear, and you see how much room that makes for your brake hoses up there. Now, see, this car has more of a normal conventional motor in it. Oh, let me stop that and go back. So this engine is more of a 351 Windsor style engine, not the Yates high-end cylinder head. So this motor, it could be 800 horsepower, but it's probably not anything more than that. So this may be a car that would fit in that new class. But really nice group of cars. They had 27 cars there this last weekend. So a lot of cars, and really good turnout, and had a pretty good race. Unfortunately, one of Joe Nemechek's rides, who he still does race in this series, and he actually does chassis setup and everything else. That's the car that actually won the event in the sprint race that we watched, a new Camry. Another one of Joe's cars. I guess depends on whether he wants to drive a wagon, a truck, or a car. Another SB2, although that's probably an earlier version of SB2, but still a pretty high horsepower operation. In the Nemechek setup, they had a bunch of Toyotas in there, so That's the Toyota engine, which looks very similar to all the other ones. They've all, from what I heard, they when TRD came out to go racing, they basically took a Chevy, a Dodge, and a Ford and dynoed them and disassembled them, found out what they liked, and then copied them. And their motor was kind of a combination of all of above. It definitely was not a clean sheet of paper build. It was, combination stuff. Here's another car that unfortunately had a little mishap on track. And they already cut the sheet metal away from it. And you can see, I mean, if you have a good sheet metal guy, they're pretty easy to fix because it's just a bunch of flat panels and stuff and stuff like that. Now this car is another one, GTA, so he races in SCCA also. And this has, I believe this one has the 604 engine in it. So you'll see the engine, see it's a conventional small block. And obviously there's not all the crazy plumbing and stuff. This chassis is actually more of a late model type chassis. It's not actually a Winston Cup or a NASCAR style chassis, but still, would be in that same, probably in that same run group. Another Toyota. Another Chevy. And Kellogg's car, which this was closer to, I think it's a little newer than what my car is, but more of that same generation. It does have an SB2 in it, so it's got a for real engine in it. And I think the next one is the last one. And it had a Miller Lite car there. Did not see that car on track. Although during the weekend, there was, there's multiple. They have Friday, they do 3 qualifying races. And Saturday, there's 2 sprint races. And Sunday, there's 2 sprint races. So a lot of track time. The races are 30-minute time sessions. So good amount of time to get on the track, but not so long that if you break something or if the car is not handling right, at least you're not out there for hours. You get to come in the pits, make changes, and get ready for the next race, and hopefully do better. So yes, that was the pictures of everything going on there. I wanted to get that for ideas and stuff, and then I did get a video in the cars. Now I'll tell you, I did this with my phone, and let me pull this up real quick here. So, being my truck was hooked to my trailer, and the truck was kind of drove up towards the gate, the fence, so it wasn't easy to get out. Typically at Sebring Turn 3 is a really good place to get video. That's if you guys remember when I did the TA2 race, that was the one because you could see them coming out of turn 1 and then driving straight to us to 3 and then out and around the back. So really good advantage point to see the cars running. But you have to drive to get there. It's way more than a walk you could do. And these guys ran right after lunch, so I really didn't have a lot of time to prepare. So we went to turn, I think this is turn 14, I think. You can kind of see 15 and 16. But we're fairly close to the track, but it was not a good vantage point because there was a bunch of people. BMW had BMW club had a big tent up and stuff. So anyway, I'll show you what I took, and I apologize that the filming isn't any better, but here we go. probably they're shutting the slow down lap. So that was what I got. Unfortunately, it's not the best footage. I definitely didn't have the right camera with me, and that wasn't a really good vantage point for it. I did take the cars coming at us in going into turn one from the front stretch, but at that vantage point, you are so far away from the track, you really couldn't even. I mean, you could see the cars, but it didn't turn out well at all. At least here we were fairly close. It'd have been really cool to get turn 17, because on turn 17 you could actually see that's a pretty high speed corner. So for people that aren't familiar with Sebring, it's an airstrip. So from where we were at, that was a chicane to turn into 16. You couldn't see 16 because of the flags, but at that point they got a long straightaway, and then they go in this big, huge sweeper in 17 to go onto the front stretch. And people were saying you could actually see the cars were up on two wheels because of the G-force of the cars and the grip. It was actually picking the inside tires off of the ground. So I wish I could have got down there, but unfortunately, when I arrived at the track and I was getting my car unloaded, that was when they had their first sprint race. And then after they had run, I didn't realize that they were running. I could have got video, I didn't. And then we took my car to tech and got it teched and ate lunch, and then they were the next run group after lunch. So probably should have kept an eye on the schedule a little better than I did to get some better footage. It really doesn't do justice for what they were doing, although this is one of the slower sections of the track, but pretty incredible. And coming out of the turn, I kept going back to, so they were coming towards us. That's kind of a high speed area there, and the curbing is really big, and the cars are jumping up off the curbing and stuff. Kind of hard to see because they're at a distance away, but that's what I was trying to achieve by kept going back to see those guys coming at us, because that was in that angle. But so that was the weekend. It was fun. Got to see a bunch of cars. I talked to Joe Nemechek a bit about different things that he could supply for the next person, owner of the car. I will say that being at the track and watching them race makes you want to do it bad. I mean, it gives you race fever bad. But it's not the level of racing that I want to do, and I have my car that is the car that I really want. So got to stay focused. Move this car on to somebody that wants to do this specific type of road racing in a recognizable car. That's the one thing about the stock cars, is pretty much whatever fans are at the track when those guys are running, they're all at the walls and stuff watching the racing. Right after, when we were eating lunch, there was one group before them. We were up in the suites above the garage area, and that was packed as everybody was getting ready to watch the NASCAR cars come out. And then we quickly scrambled to get into our position, and I did miss quite a few of the laps. They did have from the Trump car and from the Bucky's car. Obviously, you didn't see those in the video because they had been pulled off the track earlier, so there was a mid-race caution, and then there was about a 3-lap shootout at the end, and that's basically what the video I got was the shootout race at the end, and the yellow and black Camry did win. One of the cars out of the Nemechek group. So I don't know which. I think Joe was in the 87 truck for that race. I know he did run because when we went back in the pits, he had his fire suit on, so he definitely was in a car racing. But as far as which one he was in, I don't know. But anyways, that was the show for tonight. Really appreciate everybody coming out and watching, and tell your friends and family and stuff to come check us out on Tuesday nights. Like I said, next week we'll do chemicals for sealing up our hot rods from differentials and transmissions, power steering to engine. All the different chemicals that are available and the uses of them. I should have Scott's Buick motor partially together, so I can probably get some video of that when I'm putting it together, so I'll show you actually using the chemicals and how I would apply them and stuff like that. And then we'll go over all the rest of the stuff, even the ones that I don't use, and guys kind of fill you in on what everything does and what their correct purposes are and stuff like that. So keep an eye out for that for next Tuesday. And if anybody has any ideas, I appreciate Rick reaching out to me. That was an awesome idea of doing the chemicals. I hadn't really thought about that. I mean, I kind of briefly went over it when we were doing an engine conversation, probably in around the 30s in the episode. I think one of these days I need to make a directory so I can tell you exactly what numbers were for what thing. But anyhow, appreciate y'all coming out watching. I hope you got something out of the AN fitting conversation. If you have any questions or you think of some questions afterwards, put it in the comments. I read them typically as soon as I get notification that there's a new comment. I usually get right on it and answer it. And we'll go from there. So got a little bit of racing in tonight, and we got some plumbing stuff in. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and pull the plug on tonight. Appreciate everybody coming out. Appreciate you guys spending your time watching me talk about car stuff. Hopefully it's educational and fun. And again, you guys ever have any projects or questions about a project, even if it's off topic, please put it in the comments or put it in the chat. I'd love to be able to help out in any way I could. So, subscribe, like, share, ring the bell for instant notification. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. It helps in the algorithm. And with that, I guess we'll give it a pull the plug for tonight. So appreciate it. And y'all have a good week. See y'all next Tuesday. See ya.